All right, everybody, welcome to the Heat Team Call. It's something that we have done for, I think, 25 years on Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Hopefully we don't have to miss a Tuesday unless we urgent, and we even consider July 5th being so close to the July 4th holiday, but it didn't seem quite right. And thank goodness, along with the idea of what the 4th stands for and flexibility, and we're going to have Melissa really talk to us a little bit about that in her business and what this business has allowed for her in terms of flexibility and a little bit of freedom. And so, as I said earlier, I've been with the company 32 years. Melissa, how many years for you?
It's 13. 13.
13 years. Okay. So I don't know all of Melissa's background, corporate America, teacher, entrepreneur extraordinaire since she was a young kid. She's definitely a visionary, but she's going to have some great tips and tools and trainings tonight to really let you know what we have in our hands that sometimes I think we take for granted. And so, Melissa, I'm here tonight. I'm going to turn this over to you. Melissa Falco, IMD. Let's hear from you and your wisdom.
Nikki. Well, first, I just want to say thank you guys for being here in July, because I think it's easy to take our foot off the gas and to get distracted with things. But calls like this are what I find keep us grounded and keep us connected as life is going on in the background. And so I think it's a really important thing to be able to show up for things like this. So hopefully I've put some notes together so you're going to see me glance down and look at these from time to time, because I really wanted to keep this concise and also give you guys some things that I hope will apply to your life and your journey so far in your Juice Plus business, and really inspire you to take a look at how can I maybe take this, shift something, and use it to propel forward to achieve and experience some of the benefits on the other side of that. So with that, we called this talk tonight, Finding Fortune, Fun, and Flexibility in Your Business. And I'm going to go through each of those three things as it applies to my own personal story. But I have to say, the first one that we're going to talk about is fortune. And somebody is unmuted. I can hear some background noise. I think
I'll take care of it.
Thank you. Fortune has a couple of different definitions. And so I looked it up today and I spent some time really thinking about this. But the one I'm going to focus on tonight is this. It says, fortune is the success or failure of a person or enterprise over a period of time. And when you think about a 14 or 13 or 14 year journey, or in Nikki's case, an over 30-year journey, and you look at the end result, right? I think measurements can be deceiving, because especially in a business like ours where we do a lot of work in our business, especially when you're starting out, right? You need to talk to a bunch of people. We are a numbers business. It boils down to how many conversations have you had? How much has that impact of that conversation made on the individual? Did it inspire them to share with others? Did it inspire them to take a step? There's so many things that come along with that. But if you look at people and their history and their longevity in this company over the course of time, I just find that there's so much wisdom and so much that we can all take from that to really help apply to our choices as we're building to that level. So hopefully you'll get something that I think will propel you forward, okay, is really what I'm focused on tonight. So in this, I wanted to kind of say, I've noticed a couple of things over the years when it comes to fortune and the perception of fortune in this business. And if people are looking at, let's say, just the dollar sign, I would say, I think your measurement is a little bit off, because we get paid in so many different ways through this Juice Plus experience. And for me, one of the things that really caught me off guard was that when I looked back over the course of time, and mind you, I started out to be a special ed teacher. So I didn't really start out to make a lot of money to begin with. That wasn't an intention of mine. It was to make an impact in the world, right? I wanted to work with people. I wanted to work with children and families. And when I got to California, there were no teaching positions. So I had to switch gears. I had to be flexible, right? Which is another one of the words we're talking about tonight. And I had to look at, if I wanted to stay there, I needed to find a way to pay the rent. And so I went into another profession, but what I was able to do is take the tools and the skills that I had developed over the course of my training and apply those to be effective. And I would encourage you guys that there are skills and talents and experiences that you have in your everyday life that maybe you're not considering or not applying to your Juice Plus business, but that you could be, right? There's so much in that. And so the wisdom and the fortune and the payout in the end is really about how much of ourselves do we step into with this experience? How much do we step in? Do we spread our wings? Do we put our stamp on things? Do we get creative? You know, there's just so much in there. It's not just the following the steps. It's not just listening to the trainers. It's really about putting your own personal stamp on there as well. And so when I look at some people and they judge this business, they'll say things like, especially it's usually the ones that are, they kind of stepped in, they kind of took a step, they didn't jump in fully, and then they left, right? And they'll say things like, well, you know, I just wasn't that lucky, or, you know, or this person just got lucky, or they had, you know, more opportunity, or they'll blame it on something that's outside of themselves, right? And what I want to suggest to you guys is that we all have access to the same opportunity and the same fortune as each other, like every single one of us. We have the same equal playing field when we step into this. And I think that that alone, like when you really, really let that sink in and realize that the differentiator is how are you showing up and how many conversations are you having, right? Who are you engaging with? How are you interacting? What kind of energy are you bringing to those interactions? How much of yourself are you putting in there, right? Because what I've noticed is that over time, the people that are the most, and it doesn't even have to be necessarily consistent, but committed, the people that are the most committed, genuinely committed, and coming from a place of that heart-centered space where they're committed to the purpose, they're committed to the mission, they're committed to the impact of helping others, the fortune always shows up, you guys. It's like Providence steps in to carry you. I love when Terry Luongo says that. She says, once you make the decision, Providence will step in to guide you. And that has been my experience too. So here's what this looks and sounds like, right? First and foremost, I think it's a little bit of surrender. I think it's recognizing that, one, not everybody is going to say yes to Juice Plus or the business, right? But what you do have control over is your actions and your attitudes and how you show up to things. And so are you representing the brand and the Juice Plus experience in a way that other people can relate to it, right? Are you showing up are you living out the mission? Are you living a healthy life? Are you, like I used to say, the easiest thing I ever did, well, it was the easiest thing I ever did, but it was because of this reason. I used to love to go to McDonald's. Okay. It's a secret. Don't tell anybody, but it's the truth. I used to love to go to McDonald's when I was in college. I drove up and down the East 95 up and down, and there was a McDonald's on every single mile, I think it was, like to stop for like pit stops and stuff. And I would get a quarter pounder with cheese. And I'll kid you not, when I started this business and I had a Juice Plus sticker on the back of my car, all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I can never drive through there again. because I'm now representing the brand. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden it was like, whoa, and a light bulb went off. And then I saw one of our wonderful colleagues, you know, talk about how like the cheeseburger was like 15 years old and hadn't aged. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a sign, you know, there were all these things that came together. But my point to you is that if you're really stepping into this, right, for all the right reasons, and you're focused on embracing what we are and who we are and showing that, then it shifts things. The energy shifts. It's also that I have to make, right? It changes. And so when you start to embody that, you realize that the blessings come from so many different places too. So not only was I blessed with income and financial choices and flexibility and friends and all these other things that came along with it, but it up-leveled my life and my choices, which then, you know, transferred over to my health, right? And so I could see that. So do you see how that works out? This is another story I thought was worth sharing here when it comes to this. You know, people a lot of times will talk about the money in this business, and it's not a direct, this is the secret in it. When you look at earning money with Juice Plus, it's different than when you earn money somewhere else. So a lot of us were used to trading time for dollars. You know, I did a lot of jobs when I was younger, as Nikki said, you know, entrepreneurial. I mean, I started working, I think at age, you know, 8, if I was allowed to, a mother's helper and all that kind of stuff. And I really loved the empowerment that came along with it. But back then it was easy because if I showed up and helped a mom for an hour, she'd give me $5. And that was, I could measure that coming back to me. With this business, it's very different. This business, we invest in ourselves first. And then that gift we pass on to others through the form of education, inspiration, right? And tools, which is our products. And over time, you may put a lot of time into 1 month, but that paycheck may show up 60 or 90 days later, right? Sometimes 6 months later.
Yeah.
And it's confusing. And so some people misjudge that at first, and they usually quit like just before it was ready to like kick off, right? But the wise ones, what they do is it's like compound interest, right? They put the time and the energy, and they work that fortune through choices. And what happens on the other side is that the blessings are there when you need them. And so for me, my personal story was when I first said yes to the business, I had been a representative for 18 months. And I signed up just to get the discount and to get my dad taking the product because he had a diagnosis of cancer. And at the time, it felt counterintuitive to what I was doing. I was working in high tech. I had this really big professional career. I had a lot of attention on me. There was a big expense account. There was all these things, right? And in the midst of all of that, there was a lack of fulfillment. But here, I took a chance on something, which in turn made a huge impact on my dad's blood work and my own physiology. And that one little choice, led to so much more. So it was carrying me emotionally, even though I wasn't getting paid. Do you see that? Like I was getting my money from somewhere else, but this was really kind of fulfilling me. And then I got to this place where I kind of came to a crossroads, and I realized, I can't do this forever. If I give my time, all of my time to this high tech job, which is sucking the life out of me, frankly, what kind of mother am I going to be when that time comes around? What am I going to be able to do for, what am I going to be able to do for my legacy when I look back on life, and say, what did I do? Did I just sell a lot of widgets and software and all that kind of stuff? Or did I make a true impact? And so it was calling me and pulling me in that direction, right? And I think that happens for people. But when I made the choice, you guys, oh my gosh, when I made the choice to go full force with Juice Plus, and I was really off of prayer, and I kind of, I asked for some guidance and lost my job a day and a half later. And that's a whole nother story. But it was like, oh my goodness. And I had options and opportunities to go back into that field, but I really sat and I thought about it. And I felt like that would be blasphemous. I felt like that wasn't, I had asked for an answer, and here it was. And so I took a step, and then I took another step. And there were times when money got really hard and got really tight. And going from a 6-figure income from starting out my business with a $65 per month check, you guys, is my full-time, income coming from this. I had a lot of pressure on myself to perform and to do the things. But what I realized looking back, it was hard to see it then, but looking back, there was always enough. There was always enough. And I think when you're in the right place, life will guide you that way, and it will reward you that way. So sometimes the paycheck can be humbling when you're first starting out, but trust me, if you actually surveyed the leaders in this company and you ask them, like, how do they feel about their paycheck? A lot of them will tell you, I get paid way too much for what I do. Like there's a shift at some point where it kind of carries over. And again, that compound interest kind of takes over, because what you're doing is you're investing in people. And when you invest in people, people pay it forward, right? But they don't do it for longevity if it's all about money and only about money. They do it when it comes to fulfilling a purpose, for meeting the internal needs that we have, for driving, impact and helping families. Like that's what we do, you guys. The currency is so rich. It comes from so many different areas. When I was in high tech, I had the paycheck, but I didn't have the other, right? And so you see how that runs out at a certain point. So make sure when you're talking with people about our business, it's not just about the money. The money is great, but it's the people, it's the impact, it's the legacy, and how you spend your time each day. We get to wake up and do things that we like to do. I mean, how exciting and important is that? Getting to wake up to a smile and a choice, getting to work the hours you want to work, that flexibility that shows up, those things are pretty incredible. So just think about that. Jobs will pay you money, but missions, right? Long-time investments will pay you in a multitude of ways. All right, so the next thing on the list is fun. So we have fortune, we have fun, okay? And I will argue, and Jay Martin says this best, but he says if you can make them laugh, you can make them buy, right? If you're not having fun in your business, you've got to shift gears, because the joy that comes from your heart is what will touch others. So we go through seasons. There are seasons where things are tough. When my father passed away, we were so fortunate to be able to give him an extra years of life. We think, my mom and I go back and forth on this all the time. We were like, is it 10 or was it 12? Like whatever it was a lot more time than he would have had we not introduced all of this to him. And between the doctors and the education and the support and the lifestyle changes that we were able to embark upon that journey together, I mean, those memories are intangible. But then there was a season afterwards, and afterwards I was in a place where I lost my story. Has that ever happened to you? Where you're on a roll and you have something to say, and then that story changes. Like my story changed. For all that time I was keeping him alive with it, and then he was gone. And so it took me some time, right? But when I focused in on the things that mattered most, I can tell you this, the smile came back, and when the smile came back, the conversation showed up. And when the conversation showed up, the impact arrived. And when I jumped into the impact, then I get the motivation, right? It's like this cyclical piece that we go through, because it's all about others. It's not about us. And so much of the time we get stuck in the woe is me space, or we get stuck in the, what do I want, or what goal am I going for kind of a place. But I encourage you, we have two eyes, right? To look outward. It's not just about one, it's two, right? So think of who is the other person, who is the next person, who is the person I haven't met yet, who's the person that I can talk to that can have the most impact or influence in their world, right? And be curious about it. Don't be salesy about it, but just ask them, hey, is there an opportunity for us to have some fun together? Is there an opportunity for me to share with you some of the things that I'm learning, or introduce you to some of the people that I hang out with? Because what I do is great and it's fun and it means a lot, but you have access to people that I don't. And I really would love for us to just entertain that for a little bit. Are you open to that? Right? And invite them into the conversation, invite them to come along with you. I also encourage you too that, there are definitely some things that we have to do in this business to keep the business going, right? And some of those things are things that we don't necessarily love, but sometimes it's follow-up, sometimes it's customer care, sometimes it's returning a package, or whatever the thing is, right? What I've learned to do over the course of time is in order to bring that joy and keep that into my world, is to pick one thing that I love to do and make that the reward for doing the other stuff. So I take the fun piece and I put it at the end, and I go, okay, if I make these 5 calls that I've got to do, then I can get over to here, and then I get to experience, lunch with, or that kind of thing. For me, it's time with people. I just love time with people. So it's always, I kind of reward it with that at the end. But do you see how that you can work that into your motivation? I think a lot of times we get stuck in the, we don't reward enough. And so we just get into kind of the monotony of it. And then what happens is it's not so fun, and then your energy changes, and then when you make the phone calls, or you're talking about things, it just doesn't come across the same way. So I encourage you and challenge you, make a fun list. Like, what are the things that you love the most about this business, and talk about those and engage in those things as much as you possibly can, because those are the things that are really going to propel you forward. Okay. Make sure I didn't miss anything there. Oh, this is some language too that may help you, because I tell my team this all the time. There are things that we, like I said before, there's just necessary components to business. But if you talk to yourself about, I have to do this versus I get to do this today, right? That will automatically shift your energy as you engage in activity. So do that, especially if you're not a trained salesperson and picking up the phone is kind of challenging, right? Okay, so the last one I'm going to finish with here is flexibility. And I'm going to read this definition to you because I thought there's actually 3 explanations of it, and it was pretty good. Okay, so flexibility is a noun, and it says the quality of bending easily without breaking. That's the first one. The ability to be easily modified, and the willingness to change or compromise. In the beginning, you guys, I had to learn to be flexible. I had no other choice. I was coming from a situation that if you looked at it from the outside, people would say, why on earth did you do that? Why did you step into this career when you could have gone into all these other things that you already had experience in, you had a reputation in, that you had people offering you jobs? Well, for me, it was because I saw something special. I saw the thing that other people couldn't see. I saw that if I could spend the rest of my life sharing this tool and this message with people, that I could help more people stay well and avoid what we had to go through, and that my legacy in the long run would be bigger than any classroom I could teach in, would be bigger than any high-tech meeting I could, come out of, because it would multiply basically, as we go through the different teams and team members and all that kind of stuff. And so I came from a place when I first started, I had all the excuses. I had no kids at the time. I was in my late 20s. My friends didn't care about getting well or prevention or any of that kind of stuff. All they cared about was happy hours and when they could get the cheapest meal. I was a dropout professional, if you want to look at it from that perspective. So the people that I was working with tightly in that arena kind of looked at me and thought I was having a nervous breakdown. They're like, why wouldn't you sell vegetables? You could do your job. Right? My warm market was 3,000 miles away because they lived in New York and I was in California, and I wasn't having any interaction unless I was flying home to be in front of them, because New Yorkers are busy. And, at that age, there really wasn't any real reason to listen. So I had to get flexible from day one. I had to drop all of the connotations or the expectations or the ideas of how I thought it was going to be or how it should be, right, from the beginning. And what I did was in social situations as often as I could, and I would listen. And I would listen, I would ask questions and listen and ask questions. And what I found was that regardless of all those things that were working against me, I was still a human with a great set of tools in my hands. And those other humans that I was talking with had the same concerns that we all do, which is 97% of us don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, right? But until I listened, I wasn't able to share because they weren't ready to hear me, right? So I had to learn to kind of quiet, temper, and honor them. And then I was able to take that step. And then when it came time to build a team, I was really humble about it. I just flat out said, you know what? I don't know if this is for you or not, but I'm going to build a team because this NMD thing looks really exciting to me. And the fact that I could build that and have benefits for the rest of my life would give freedom to my marriage so that my husband could take choices and make job changes as he needed to, or, give us the opportunity to work flexibly, and to support my family in the ways that I wanted to, or to take off for a couple of months, or, have an adventure or do some things. But it all came back to this needing to be really flexible and really let go of any expectations that I had. And the business has changed over the years too. This is really important. I think a lot of us really want to keep things the same. We're in a season of transition and change in our company like we've never seen before, you guys. And this summer even, there will be more things that come out that are really exciting that we can sink our teeth into and get excited about. And as we go through those motions, I just encourage you, this is the time to learn how to surf. I think about Chris and I think about his love for life and just his zest for adventure. And that's how we have to come to our business now. We need to show up every day excited about the next step, excited and curious about coming, because as we bring that energy to it, we're going to have opportunities to share with the same energy to other people as we get out into the world, right? I wanted to shift into, there's two more things I want to share here, but in the middle of my career, getting flexible meant something different. And sometimes when you're in the success mode, kind of on that success train, you're fast tracking, you're doing all the things, you've got all the attention around you. There are times when you may be humbled. And I just want to put the seed in your mind to understand and to know that just because the music stops for a little bit, or just because things slow down for a little bit, does not mean that anything's wrong. Okay. Sometimes that's just life giving us a chance to catch up and to dig in deeper and to think more about what we're doing and where we're headed, and to reset, right? And refocus and then take those next steps, because that happened at many times throughout the career, when I had babies, when we moved, now we're in the season of moving. It's all kind of crazy. But in the end of all of this, I just want to say that the flexibility, I think, has probably been the most important piece and the most valuable piece in all that I've achieved here with Juice Plus. The fact that I've had the ability to say yes to everything that was important in my life, whether it was staying home for 3 months and nursing my dad in his last days and lifting him in and out of wheelchairs and caring for him and feeding him when he couldn't feed himself, and doing the things that my mother couldn't even do. Or whether it was nursing my children for 2 years because I got the great wisdom from Dr. William Sears to tell me that if I could do that, that I could minimize the chance of cancer in my family and stop those genes from transferring down. That's a huge commitment of time. I applaud the women that do this, Or if it was like now when my husband needed a life change, and I had the opportunity to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to dig in. We're going to do this. This is the best thing for our family. It's not easy. It's very hard. There's a lot of time and commitment, and it wasn't, comfortable for me to sidestep. But you know what, you guys, this business is a business of longevity, and it shows up, and the energy and the time that you put into it in the beginning pays you tenfold in the back end. And these months that I've had to take those times and those seasons, the paycheck showed up. And the customers ate the Juice Plus. And the team kept saying yes and kept sharing, and the numbers still showed. And so I just want to say to you guys tonight that wherever you are in your business, right? I just really encourage you, think with your heart, dream with your heart, not your mind. Let go of the limitations that people put on you from the outside, because here we have a blank canvas and we get to design the life that we want in whatever fashion we want to. And there has never, ever, ever been a better time than right now to get serious about your business. So I hope this is helpful. I love you guys so much. I'm so grateful for our team. We have such a wonderful group of people. And Nikki, thank you for having me on tonight.
Well, Melissa, first of all, can everybody hear me? I'm hoping you can, because a lot of things broke up on my end. But a couple of things I wrote down that I'm going to challenge you, and I hope this is okay. I'm adding on to your training here, but
Sure.
I want to challenge the people on this call to think about a couple of things to actually write down. I think this will make a huge difference for everyone. To think about for you personally, and get out a pencil and paper when we get off, or tomorrow morning when you get up in the morning, because I think it'll be a great miracle morning kind of day if you actually wrote this down on paper. How are the ways that you experience fortune in this business? I know for me, it's like you said, Melissa, it's not just about the money. It's the fact that I could do certain things, like you said, with my parents, that I could, there's so many ways in which I get to impact people's lives. I get to work with people I never met. All of those are definitely fortune for me. They're treasures. And so if you think of fortune as being treasures, what are all the gifts that you receive from doing this business that are not specifically money? I would really challenge everybody to write it down. It's kind of like what we used to do, Melissa, years ago, when we say, find the 30 things you love about what you do.
Yeah.
But you changed it to make some very important distinctions that I think are really important. So I'm going to challenge you to do that. The second thing I'm going to challenge you to do is write down all the things that are fun for you in this business, all the ways. And if you don't have a bunch of fun things that you are doing, I would even take this a step further and say, you're doing something wrong. Because there should be fun in this, right, Melissa? Find the fun
100%.
ways. I've been watching you, Melissa, over the past few months. You bought a house, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. My timeline's always off. But you bought a house that was going to be your dream home that you were going to be in forever. And you fought for that house. You fought big time to have that house. And all of a sudden, you got a message, from the great spirits who you always work with, saying, you know what, might be time to move. And you were ready to give up and go. And it looks like you've made some of the trips. Well, I don't see the every day, but I see some of the stuff you're doing with your girls along the way. It looks like they're having fun. So find all the ways that this business allows fun and write them down. And then the third one, which is so important, is this flexibility. How has you becoming more flexible because of this business translated into your life? where has becoming more flexible so that you're being able to say yes when you would have said no? And I just don't mean financially, but all of a sudden your expansion, your perception has expanded, which has allowed you to see possibility through the flexibility. Write those down. And then also write down how the flexibility of time. You and I, Melissa, have had very similar experiences. I got to be with my dad for the last 2 years of his life. I didn't know he was going to die, but I was able to be with him every winter for 5 months and see him 2 and 3 times a week, not knowing that his death was around the corner. Could never have done that without the flexibility. So if you're not in a position right now to be super flexible with your time in the business, because maybe you have a full-time job, maybe this is very part-time, write down what it would look like if you could say yes and no to time-issued things. Write it down, because that's going to give you a really beautiful picture of what you have here. So I hope that's okay that I added that on, Melissa, but I think this is a very powerful training.
Absolutely.
And
can I say one more thing?
To be able to end up with
really quick, there was a time where, and this is like, this might hit somebody, I just felt prompted to say it. There was a time where Paul and I were deciding to go to Maui, and so we were going to buy a timeshare. It was all, and I'm going through, and well, you know, it kind of just makes more sense if we fly on this day. We'll save this much money, and that gives us like 2 extra nights in a hotel. That'd be kind of cool. You know, why don't we do that? And I remember him saying to me, well, hold on a second. That makes it like 10 or 14 days. I think it was 14 days. He said, I have to check how much PTO I had. And my genuine response, you guys, was like, oh, right, that's a thing. And to like really, like, it shocked me that I completely forgotten about PTO and like having paid time off. Whereas like having that control of your own calendar, like, you guys, it's seriously priceless. Right, Nikki? I mean.
Yeah, totally. So I think there are some even further distinctions that we can take advantage of from Melissa's training, but it's going to require you all to dig deep like Melissa did. I'm reading the text on here, Melissa, and you are very honored and respected via these texts. But that's because you've done the work. And I don't mean the work of being a Juice Plus partner. You've done the work of life to see how things fit together and how you benefit and how your family benefits. I'm going to challenge everyone on here to do the same, because it will shift your business and it will change your perception. So beautiful, like amazing job tonight, Melissa. In the middle of buying furniture, moving your kids in, unpacking 57 million boxes, and I just having 2 little girls that, you know, you bring up and your husband, I just want to honor you for this call tonight, and we all thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Love you guys. Mwah.
So,
thank you, Melissa.
So I'm going to ask all of
Thank you, Melissa.
to unmute yourselves and give it a shout out of
Thank you.
appreciation to Melissa for
Thank
the spirit.
You're a rock star.
Thank you,
Melissa.
Melissa. Enjoy Idaho.
Thank you.
Good job, Melissa.
Thank you.
On over to Hawaii.
Mwah.
All right, everybody, have a great evening. Melissa, keep unpacking and keep sharing your adventures with all of us, and give your wisdom to us whenever you can. Good night, everybody.